This episode contains material that may be triggering to some individuals. Please check the show notes for more information and be mindful of your own mental health and comfort levels. Planning a Disney trip can feel like a full-time job, but it doesn't have to. Lorraine from Rainy's Magical Moments handles it all. Dining reservations, lightning lane tips, stroller rentals, even crowd calendars. And did I mention her services are totally free? Her favorite park is Magic Kingdom, her favorite ride is Haunted Mansion, and her favorite thing is making your trip stress-free. Disney not your vibe? Lorraine can help you plan your next visit to Universal Orlando, or even that cruise you've been thinking about. Visit Rainy's Magical Moments on Facebook or TikTok to start planning today. Hey, welcome back to another Quiet Confessions, little mini episodes where you and I hang out and I catch you up on what's going on with me. And this is my final episode in my series about my postpartum psychiatric inpatient hospitalizations. I don't know what the episodes after this will be about. If you have suggestions or things that you want to know, questions you want to ask, literally about anything, hit me up on social media. Instagram's a great place to get a hold of me, or you can go to my website, quietconnectionpodcast.com, and there's a contact me form, or you can just email me at chelsea@quietconnectionpodcast.com. But I love being able to answer your questions and kind of give you guys what you want to know. So, with that said, this is episode 10 and the conclusion of the psych inpatient journey. Ben may have things to say in future episodes, but it's very difficult to get him to record. So, we'll see. We'll cross our fingers. I literally just ended my telehealth therapy session and said, I feel good. I think I can record this episode. So yeah, I'm coming into this in a good headspace. And to be honest, I'm going to cover the transition into partial hospitalization, outpatient therapy, and then intensive outpatient therapy. We call it PHP and IOP. And when I left you last, it was the darkest of the dark in my journey. Yeah, it was scary and it was very touch and go. But I did make it to that Tuesday when I restarted partial hospitalization at the Seneca program. And it's for we've talked about it a little bit on the show for other people who have experienced it. And I may have talked about it in terms of my experience, but what it is, it's kind of like school. You get there in the morning. I think I had to be there by 9 a.m. And because it was still sort of COVID times, the hours were slightly reduced. So I believe I was there until 2 p.m. And you get a lunch break and you get like a snack break. But you're in like a conference room with a group of people. And there are 3 therapists that are, at least in my program, that are trained in dialectical behavioral therapy, which is different than the type of therapy that you receive typically when you go to like a talk therapist. That's cognitive behavioral therapy, unless you're specifically working on something else like EMDR or ERP or things like that. But DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, is what we were working on. And it is really skill building and filling your toolbox with coping mechanisms and communication skills to help you navigate your mental illness or your whatever situation that you're in that is affecting your mental health. When I started, was still very much lacking hope, lacking motivation, very physically ill. I was not taking care of myself very well at all. I couldn't even drive myself to the appointments. Like I said, I was sort of living with my mother-in-law for the first 2 weeks, and she would drive me. It was a long drive too. It was like an hour, just one way. So my village really showed up for me. But you go in the morning, you do most of the day as a group. You start your day with going over, there's always homework, and you set goals for yourself each day. And in the morning, you go over like if you did those goals and if you were able to accomplish the homework. Homework is just skills practice. And I'll talk about what all of that stuff is too. But just as like a brief overview of what our day looked like, we would do that. We would have these skills sessions and we would work through the skills and we would practice the skills. And then interspersed throughout that, you would have a meeting with your psychiatrist that was assigned to you. And it was virtual because, again, COVID times. And you would also have you would be assigned to one of the 3 therapists, and you would have a therapy session. If at any point during the day you were feeling out of control or you were feeling just like you needed extra support, if your therapist was not at that point leading the group, you could step out and go meet with them. And I did do that a few times. All 3 of the therapists that were working at the time. I don't know if they still work there or not. This was 2023. So I'm not sure, but they were all wonderful. The therapist that I was paired with, again, this is another one of those, you guys know I'm woo woo, but like we, the way that she saw me through all of my like I mean, my rating scales when I started there were just dismal. Like, I was incredibly high risk in the suicidal category, depression, anxiety, PTSD, like, it was horrible. And again, I'm showing up in, like, sweats and a sweatshirt with my hair not washed, barely participating, barely talking during group sessions, and my therapist kind of saw through all of that. She really from day 1, there was no toxic positivity, there was no rainbows and sunshine, but there was always hope. There was always hope in her words, in her eyes, in just holding space for me. One of the goal we had to, like, set these end goals, and, ugh, this you guys know at this point what Disney means to me. Disney is my happy place, Disney is my home, and before all of this happened, we had planned a trip to Disney that was supposed to happen. We were gonna leave the day after Christmas, and we all know at this point that I was in the ED waiting for a psych bed the day after Christmas. So that trip did not happen. My husband hastily worked with our incredible Disney travel agent. You may have heard some ads for her on the show. Her name is Lorraine. She does Rainy's Magical Moments, but she's fantastic. And he scrambled, and I had nothing to do with this, but he replanned the entire trip for June, which was a ways out, which is also insanely hot in Florida, but we're not gonna go there. But I was convinced that I wasn't gonna make it to that trip, that I wasn't gonna be back to myself, I wasn't gonna be better. And so when she asked me, like, "What's your long-term goal?" I said, "Well, I wanna be able to take care of my kids, I wanna be a mom, and we have this trip that we're supposed to go on in June to Disney, and I just don't think that I can do it." And from day 1, she was like, You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it." And I totally did not believe her, um, in the first week or 2. But again, meeting with her, meeting with the psychiatrist was the first person in this whole journey, even compared to the people that I was working with in at UNC, she looked at me and she said, "This is not your ending." And when we were talking about medications, rather than being judgmental or being critical or like the people at UVM who treated me like I was a drug addict, which I completely was not. I told her adamantly, I don't want to take Ativan anymore. I don't want to be on benzodiazepines. And she talked me through this whole thing. We did adjust my medications again, and we had to do it again while I was there too for a few reasons. But she talked to me about starting an alternative benzodiazepine to Ativan, which is Klonopin, and it is a slow release rather than a quick release. And I said, "Nope, I do not want to take that." Um, for personal reasons that I'm not going to get into on here because it's not my story to tell, but there are people very, very close to me who have had experiences with Klonopin that I did not want repeated. Um, and she said to me, "I'm talking to you right now and I'm hearing you and I know that you are not an addict. I know that this is not something that you want to continue long term. I also know that we need to keep you alive. And for you to be able to access these skills that we're teaching you or that the therapists are teaching you, you need to stay alive." And she explained it in a way that I'm sure you may have heard, especially if you're very into the whole mental health realm. But she explained it as like a person with diabetes taking insulin or just any other type of like life sustaining medication. Like for me now, it's steroids and hormones and thyroid medications. Like I have to take those medications to stay alive. So she talked to me about transitioning from Ativan to Klonopin and that the long term goal would be to get off of it. We didn't know when. And we also had a long conversation about what that would look like and what it would mean if it was really, really hard. And for the first time, I trusted the psychiatrist. I trusted the doctor because she talked to me like a human. She looked at me like a human. She took all of my worries and fears and concerns into consideration. And she said, "I'm not just prescribing this to you because it's a med and it'll calm you down and it'll get you through whatever. I'm doing this because we need you to stay alive. You need to stay alive. And these skills that you're going to learn, they are going to help you so that you can keep going. But you can't access the skills if you are in constant fight or flight." I got the prescription, I brought it home, and I literally cried as I took it for the first time because everything in me just did not want to do it. And it wasn't because I didn't believe her, and it wasn't because I thought I could do it without it. I knew I couldn't do it without it. It's just it was a road that I didn't wanna go on. And full transparency, I am still taking Klonopin. Working with my current psychiatrist, it is on the plan of things for me to come off of, but it is the last thing on my list. I think I told you when I was talking about medications, we're working on getting me off of almost everything that I was put on, um, and that I had stayed on since that final PHP and IOP. I have successfully come off of 2 2 of them, and I am tapering off of another one right now so that I can take a medication that is better suited to OCD, which is what my primary, I don't know, mental health, I mean, besides PTSD, OCD and PTSD and anxiety. So I am currently tapering off of another one so that I am totally okay with getting on a medication that will help with my OCD. And then the very last one that we will work on is the Klonopin, and we understand, or I understand, that that will be a long, slow process that could take years, but I am determined. And I do not have the same sort of anger in regard to the psychiatrist that I worked with through the partial hospitalization program for prescribing me that, because I think she was 100% right. I don't know if I would be speaking to you today if I hadn't entered the Seneca program, if I hadn't adjusted my medications, and if I hadn't learned these DBT skills. As the medications were adjusted, I did slowly start coming out of the fog. And what was more of just me showing up and sitting through these days, not really taking anything in, turned into like, again, we had to set goals every evening. And one of my goals was to wash my hair. And so the next day I came in with clean hair and braids. After that, I wore leggings instead of sweatpants. I started talking to the other people in the program in between, like when we had our breaks and on lunch. I started forming connections with people. There were actually people in the program who were at UVM while I was there. One of them was one of my roommates. And then I started participating in the group and volunteering to read or volunteering to work through these exercises. And I won't get into all of the exercises. If you want to look up dialectical behavioral therapy, I mean, they have incredible tools about just managing like intrusive thoughts or how to communicate your needs or how to have a conversation with someone that may be difficult, or it's how, like when I use the term like magical thinking, that's something that I learned through DBT, and catastrophizing, that's something I learned through DBT. So Google it. This is not a lesson on DBT, but I started engaging in the lessons. And then I started noticing changes at home. So I was no longer staying with my mother in law at her house. I was back at my house. My in laws were still taking turns staying with us because, like I said, the medications that I was on, and I was still in recovery. So nights were challenging, but we fell into a routine. We would we would watch the Great British Bake Off, me and my mother-in-law, and she would sometimes bring over little like treats that we would eat during, like while we were watching the show, which was really cool. It was the first time I had bread pudding. She brought it. The other shift happened, if you remember going back, like being around my kids was a trigger. And I was determined that even though I couldn't take the night shift, I was putting my baby to bed every night. I was doing the bedtime routine. So at this point, she was 8 or 9 months old, 8 months old. I can't remember. 8 months old, I think. So I had missed so much, and I did not want to miss anymore. So every night I got her ready for bed. I rocked with her, gave her her last bottle of the night. I stayed rocking with her after she fell asleep, which some people would say you're supposed to put a baby down a little bit awake. It did not impact her sleep skills at all. This kid this kid was in the trenches. She had so many different hands in raising her in those early days. She rolled with the punches and she still does today. Um, but it was more for me than it was for her. But every night I rocked with her, I held her, I just stared at her, and I wanted to, and it felt safe and it felt like home. And then I could put her in her bed, and usually my mother-in-law or my husband would sleep in there with her so they could do night shift duty. And it also was helpful for me when my husband would sleep up there, because I could get some sleep because I had to get up early and go to to PHP again. And I believe I did partial hospitalization for 3.5 or 4 weeks. At that point, it cycles through the same material again, and if you are in need of it, you can do it again. But my therapist approached me, and she she told me, she's like, "I've really seen a huge change in you." Another thing that I was doing was I'd started doing my hobbies again. So I started using my Cricut and I was making stickers, and they were all mental health related, and I would bring them in every day and I would spread them out on the table for my peers to just take stickers, and they loved it. I had somebody who's like, can I pay you for these?" I was like, "No, that's just fun." And then to be able to say that after 8 months, like, "This is fun. I'm doing something fun." And I started talking about possibly starting this podcast and what it would mean, and she was like, "I have seen so much change in you, so much growth, so much strength." She's like, "I know that you're scared, so I'm not going to suggest discharge. How would you feel about stepping down to IOP, intensive outpatient?" So that is only you can do it 2 days a week. I don't remember if it was 2 days a week or 5 days a week. I don't remember. You could do it partial or full time, and it's a shorter day. And I said, "Yes, please, like, I still need the structure. I know the skills, but, like, I need the structure. I need a little bit I just need a buffer in between this and going back to real life." And she's like, "Absolutely." So, I had my last day at PHP, um, and it felt really good. It's always celebrated, and the ironic thing is that IOP is just across the hall, so, like, you still see each other all the time. But with my last meeting with my therapist, she gave me a card, and we read it together, and I had to take the rating scales again, and she said that she was blown away by how dramatically my scores had changed. My suicidality was now at a 0. My depression and anxiety were at almost, um, normal, quote, unquote, levels, and the thing that stuck out the most to me, I still have this card. um, she told me how lucky my girls were to have me and that she was so excited for me to go on this Disney trip, and I did go on the Disney trip, and IOP was great. I think I only did it for 2 weeks. And then I graduated from that. Again, it was just practicing the skills, um, but I was much happier, I was much more involved. I I actively started planning this podcast, Quiet Connection, and I was sharing it with them, and they were all excited, and we all we all became Finch friends. If you don't have the Finch app, you really should get it. It's this amazing it's like having a Tamagotchi for your mental health. If you don't know what a Tamagotchi is, I can't help you. You need to get on Google. You you're not a millennial. I still love you anyway, and you are valid, and yes, I'm sorry. Um, but things really started to shift, and when I graduated IOP, my husband took me out to dinner. He called the restaurant ahead of time to ask if there was a quiet area that we could have, because he explained it to them that his partner was graduating from this and that I had experienced all of these things and I really needed a quiet, secluded environment. And they actually opened up a section of the restaurant that's usually closed just for us. And it was dimly lit and quiet and soft music. And there were games, board games, and the food was amazing. And it was so sweet, and it still took me time. It took me time to trust myself, and it took me time to feel like me again, and to be completely honest with you, I'm still trying to feel like me again. I don't know who me is. I don't know who I am, but I've also had all other kinds of curveballs thrown my way since 2023, with the brain tumor and the just everything associated with that. And yeah, my life has changed in so many ways, but that's motherhood, isn't it? It doesn't matter to what degree, it doesn't matter the situation. Every one of us is changed by motherhood. And we're all here because we don't want to feel alone. And the fact is, we're not alone. And no, I still don't believe in silver linings. I still do not look back at those months and think to myself, wow, all of that happened so that I could be here today doing this. First of all, I do not consider myself influential in any way, shape, or form. I still have insane imposter syndrome. It still blows my mind that you guys trust me with your stories and want to share space with me. I don't think that will ever go away. But I am grateful beyond measure for every single one of you, for everyone I have met, whether it be through the podcast, through social media, through email, whatever it is, every connection I've made. I am beyond grateful that we've built this village together. And that's where I'm going to leave you today. That was my journey and is my journey and continues to be my journey. And I'm going to keep taking you along. And if there's anything you want to know about, ask me because I would love to tell you. Even when it hurts, I'll still talk about it because there's no point in keeping it quiet. So until next week, let's go do something kind for ourselves.
Hey, it's Chelsea. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in and being a part of the Quiet Connection community. Did you know that you can support me and gain exclusive perks by subscribing to my Patreon account? By becoming a subscriber, you'll get access to bonus episodes, ad-free listening, exclusive chats, and even monthly goodies in the mail handmade by me. Your support helps me continue creating high-quality content and ensures that we keep spreading awareness and ending the stigma surrounding perinatal mood and anxiety disorders and so much more. Head on over to Patreon, search Quiet Connection Podcast, and join the community of listeners who are helping me make this podcast the best it can be.